2010 was the turn of a decade. Drew Brees just won his first and only Super Bowl. Brady was gloriously on a championship-less stretch, and the NFL was about to enter its new era of dominance. A decade that allowed countless young fans across the nation to fall in love with the sport. It was arguably one of the best in the history of the league, filled to the brim with electrifying stars, historic teams, exceptional rivalries, and jaw-dropping plays. This magnificent era, chock full of entertainment, started in one place: the 2010 NFL Draft. The draft is a yearly event that welcomes the most exceptional prospects out of college into the professional league. It changes lives and redirects franchises. All of the players you cherish deep in your heart have all gotten that phone call welcoming them to the league. The 2010 draft was the first one of a new decade. It marked the start of a new era and embraced many of the stars of the extraordinary 2010s era into the league. Throughout this series, I'll go through every single pick and tell you about these drafts, and offer you a look into the foundation of the era we hold so close to our hearts. Pick 32, Saints, Patrick Robinson. With the departure of Scott Fuida, the defending champ Saints need to replace the cornerback spot fast. It took a high potential Patrick Robinson at 32. He was a fantastic cover guy who was viewed as a secondary solidifier for a team looking to run it back. He didn't make much noise in his first year, but his role improved in his sophomore year, and he put up solid production. His best year was probably his third year, which was 2012. He had a career high in tackles, pass defense, and forced fumbles. He tallied 3 interceptions, which was just one less than year prior. Unfortunately, Robinson suffered a knee injury 2013 that kept him out for the year. He wasn't the same after that, as after the 2014 season, the Saints let him walk and he signed a 1-year deal with the Chargers. He played solid enough to land a 3-year deal with the Colts, but they ended up cutting him after 7 weeks. In the following offseason, he signed a 1-year deal with the Eagles, the future Super Bowl champion Eagles, and that gained him the only ring of his career. He had his best year since 2012, racking up 4 interceptions and becoming a solid rotational piece for the Eagles secondary on their route to the Super Bowl. After getting the ring, his splendid performance earned him a 3-year deal back with the Saints. Unfortunately, another injury hit him his first contract year, which effectively ended his career. Robinson had an interesting career. He might have had really great potential, but that major knee injury after his best season screwed him over. Even when he had a solid year with the Eagles, the year after that he suffered from injuries. Even though it didn't pan out all the way, it wasn't due to talent. Robinson had some really good years with the Saints that extended his career. I give this pick a C+. Pick 31, Jerry Hughes. Hughes fell to the Colts at 31. The Colts really need to bolster their undersized pass rotation. Hughes was viewed as a steal for the Colts, who were excited to get a shot at the Super Bowl. For the first 3 years of his career, Hughes did nothing. He was alright in year 3 with 4 sacks, but the Colts decided to trade him to the Bills. That's when he popped off. For 2 straight seasons, he tallied 10 sacks. Unfortunately, he couldn't really replicate that, as Hughes was only able to put up 22 sacks over the next 4 seasons. He reached a new low after that. In 2019 and 2020, he only had 4.5 sacks and even dipped down to 2 before getting signed by the Texans. It looked grim for Hughes, as it was assumed he was gonna fade away on a shitty team. To his credit, he had his best statistical season since his prime back in 2014. He wasn't fantastic or close to as good, but 9 sacks isn't too shabby for someone so old. Hughes didn't make the Pro Bowl or get close to a Hall of Fame career, but he had a solid prime and probably would have been a good rotational pass rusher for most of his career and a high-end second pass rusher at his. The Colts, though, didn't get any use from him, so it'll be hard to give them credit for that. D+ pick. Pick 30, Javeed. Best doubled as a track star before he got drafted by the Lions. The Lions were looking for a playmaker to help out Stafford. Decided to go with the ever so electric Best. It didn't work. The first year he was disgustingly inefficient. Averaging 3.2 yards per carry with 171 attempts is revolting. He was a solid receiver though, almost obtaining 500 receiving yards on limited volume. His second year even looked better. His efficiency jumped and he even improved as a receiver. He was looking like a potential Pro Bowl caliber player. Then disaster struck. During a game against the Browns, Best got crushed and suffered a concussion. Not the end of the world, right? No, this was shockingly severe. He ended up missing not only that season, but the next. Eventually, the Lions cut him in 2013. What can I say? There's nothing the Lions could really do. Best looked like he was going to be a star based on how he played at the beginning of his sophomore year. A shitty concussion ended his career, not him being ass. I have to grade this pick a C. Pick 29, Kyle Wilson. Even with 2 all-pro corners, the Jets weren't satisfied. Rex Ryan craved depth at the position, and he got it. Kyle Wilson at 29 was the pick. And people loved it. They were certain that adding even more talent to the squad would send him to the next level. It didn't. He played on the Jets for 5 seasons, as the Jets let him walk after his rookie deal. He wasn't horrid, as his athletic ability flashed, and he was a solid slot corner. He was just painfully disappointing for the 29th pick. He had really low lows and allowed a lot of yards, but his great athleticism and tackling allowed his tenure with the Jets to be significantly better. He then went to the Saints for a couple of years before deciding to hang up the cleats and retire. Although Kyle was a disappointment, he was a solid nickel guy and carved a role on a good defense for an extended period of time. The Jets didn't hit it out of the park, not even close, but they got a meh guy for half a decade, C-. Pick 28, Jared Odrick. Dolphins needed line badly. They ultimately decided to trade down from 12 and pick Jared Odrick from Penn State. It was obvious he wasn't going to be a star right off the bat, or really ever, but he was seen as a sure thing, a good foundation piece for the Dolphins line. It didn't start off too hot for him. He barely played his rookie year with him getting a pretty bad broken foot, but he didn't let that define him. Odrick put up his highest career sack total the following year, which was 6, but that wasn't even his best year. In 2012, his third year, he put up only 1 less sack, while tying for the most hits and having his highest tackles for loss. He played out his contract with the Dolphins. Unfortunately, he ended it on a low note. The Jaguars ended up giving him a shot, and to his credit, he was a good edge piece in his first year, but his injury-riddled second year got him cut. Odrick ended up getting in some shenanigans in film post-career, but that's about it. The Dolphins drafted Odrick knowing he probably won't be a star, and more likely a really solid player. At his peak, he was. His inside-outside flexibility provided the Dolphins with the versatility that made him very usable. Now, he only provided that for 2 to 3 years, and solid is maybe disappointing for a first-round pick, but they gained good value for him and close to what they intended, C+. Pick 27, Devin McCordi. The Patriots needed a corner. It was their weakest position group, and Belichick decided to go with McCordi, a small technical guy. Some people questioned it. They thought that Wilson was the right selection, and Belichick reached. Even with the doubts, McCordi wasn't a slouch. His zone skills were extremely impressive, even with his small frame. His high IQ was definitely something Belichick was intrigued by, and probably why they drafted him. Here's a fun fact about Devin McCordi. He started in every single game he's played in. Does that give you a hint at how good he was right off the bat? Maybe this will. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year, went to a Pro Bowl, and was top 7 in passes defended and was top 3 in interceptions. He was a certified dog. He was unbelievable. And just as a rookie, you'd imagine he'd improve further and reach new heights, right? Well, he didn't. It wasn't like he divulged into the worst corner in the league. He just suffered from the super dangerous sophomore slump. Everything went down. His interceptions, pass defense, and forced fumbles. His second season was very grim for him. Year 3 started off similarly, and at that point, fans began to get frustrated with him. He was a first-round pick and was literally all-pro in his rookie season. What was wrong with him? With his struggles continuing, the Pats decided to put him at free safety. His smaller stature was hindering him at cornerback. Maybe a switch to free safety will allow him to use his great instincts, hip mobility, and zone skills. Short answer, it did. He never looked back. His play instantly improved. And the next season, he earned himself an All-Pro second team. He continued on this path, earning himself a Pro Bowl and All-Pro second team nod in 2016. He never left the Patriots either, winning 3 Super Bowls along the way and staying there to this day. So what grade does McCordi get? His best year was definitely his rookie season. But even with that fact, he still had a really solid career. He was an important piece of multiple championship winning teams, and he didn't forget to get some Pro Bowls along the way either. He isn't Hall of Fame worthy, but he had a nice career for a late first round pick, A-. Pick 26, Dan Williams. The big need at cornerback, the Cardinals marked another team that passed up on Kyle Wilson. They decided to go best player available at defensive tackle instead, hoping to make a solid defensive line duo with Dan Williams and Darnell Dockett. Things didn't go exactly as planned. He didn't start the entirety of his first season. Now, this wasn't the end of the world, considering he was a late first round pick and was a rookie too. He ended up starting at nose tackle his sophomore season, which fit exactly what he was scouted as, a run-stuffing interior defensive lineman. Throughout his Cardinals career, he filled that hole, being a rotational defensive tackle that provided solid run defense. That didn't make him irreplaceable. As the Cardinals decided to move on from him after his rookie deal was up, he moved on to the Raiders, and the usual thing happened. He sputtered out after a couple of seasons, being released in 2017. Dan didn't have defensive player of the year expectations. He didn't have an insanely deep bag of pass rushing moves in his arsenal. He was drafted in the first round due to his run stuffing ability. And even though most would have expected more, the Cardinals did get some good value out of him. C. Pick 25, Tim Tebow. I'm probably the most excited to talk about this guy right here. Tim Tebow was a part of that insane Florida quarterback room in 2008. He played under Urban Meyer in his spread offense. Tebow led the Gators to a 13-1 record, along with a national championship on the side. Tebow had an absurd college resume. I mean, looking at what he accomplished, you would have thought he would have been a top 10, maybe top 5 pick. He wasn't close to that. It wasn't even a thought in that stratosphere. Why though? Well, his mechanics were garbage. He never needed to really consistently pass the ball accurately because, as I mentioned before, he played in Urban Meyer's spread scheme, where the more important thing was your athleticism. And boy, did Tebow have a lot of it. He was built like a fullback and was impossible to bring down. And that's why he was drafted at the 25th pick. Now, the Broncos drafting him was a surprise. Unfortunately for them, and you'll see why I said unfortunately soon enough, they fell in love with Tebow's athleticism and thought he could work out his mechanics with their help. The Broncos sat Tebow for most of his rookie year, which was expected, considering he couldn't hit a receiver accurately if he was 4 steps in front of him. But the Broncos were kind of forced to start Tebow when they began the season with a 1-4 slide. That's when the culture phenom of Tebow began. The next 8 weeks for the Broncos were the most dramatic time period in Broncos history. It was like a soap opera. Every week they started out slow before the golden boy Tebow would bravely lead them back to victory. This happened for most of their wins as the Broncos went 7-1 after the disgusting 1-4 start. Even though they didn't win it all, Tebow still led the Broncos to the AFC Championship. Well, led is a pretty strong word. He more so just happened to be the quarterback of an AFC Championship level team. In all seriousness, things were looking up for Tebow. All should be going well, right? No. The Broncos traded Tebow right after that year, which is strange since he was literally their first round pick that led them to an AFC Championship game. After he got shipped to the Jets, he barely played again and went on to other endeavors. Played minor league baseball for the Mets and teased a comeback at tight end for the Jags. That was a publicity stunt and probably the first of many mistakes that Urban Meyer made in his 8 months employed there. Overall, the Tebow experience didn't work out, but it did at the same time. He wasn't Tom Brady or anything, but I can't justify trading your first round quarterback after he got you to the championship game. Maybe with a little more faith, he turns into something, but the Broncos did not have faith. I'm tempted to give them an F, but they got to a championship game with them. D-. Pick 24. Dez Bryant. Dez was seen as a possession receiver. He had freakishly large hands and amazing catching ability, but his speed and route running was considered not his biggest attribute. He did have some off-the-field issues, which probably made him slide a bit, but despite that, the Cowboys traded up from pick 27 to select their guy. Easily was seen as a steal across the board. These types of players usually do. I mean, we see on a yearly basis, troubled and uber-talented players who slide in the draft get scooped up down the board and routinely are viewed as steals, since the risk outweighs the talent. And it's true most of the time. And even if that's not the case, players usually mature and grow in the league to deem their prior college years irrelevant, especially as they blossom into stars. Dez was a perfect example of that. Even as a rookie, despite not being the dominant receiving force he'd be seen as in the future, he flashed fantastic ability. He really broke out onto the scene his third year. We had 1,382 yards and 12 touchdowns. He had his highest success rate, yards per game, yards per target, and total yards. He was a phenom for America's team. That year, he was somehow not selected for a Pro Bowl. The next year, though, he didn't miss a beat. Over 1,200 yards that time. Finally got himself a Pro Bowl ticket. It was more of the same the next season. 1,300 plus yards, 16 touchdowns. Bryant looked to be on the direct path to the Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, he fractured his foot the next year. Nothing crazy serious, but it limited him to 9 games, and it evidently had an effect on him. The next season, he suffered from another injury. This one kept him out for 3 games and limited him to 800 yards. He still showed up when healthy, dropping monster numbers in the divisional playoffs. All Dez needed to do was stay healthy, right? The next season, he played all 16 games for the first time in a while, but he was only able to put up 838 yards. That's not too bad, right? No, it was bad. He was incredibly inefficient, posting a catch percentage of 50. His yards per route was significantly lower than his standards, and yards per target was abysmal. These numbers were near worst of his career. The only time they were worse was when he was hampered by the fractured foot in 2015. The injuries had caught up to him, and with having a large contract, Cowboys decided it was best to cut ties with him. He signed with the Saints' 2018 high-powered offense, ready to show the Cowboys they made a mistake. He tore his Achilles during practice and unfortunately never played a snap for them. This killed his career, and after a short stint with the Ravens, he hung up the cleats and called it quits. Dez was electric at his peak, unbelievable in that 3-year stretch, and revolutionized the Cowboys. He would have been an all-time great if only injuries didn't get in his way. I can't really blame the Cowboys for the injuries, and at his peak, he was a top 5 receiver in the league. They also got him really deep in the first. Gotta give them an A-. Yellow? Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is my look back on the draft 2010 edition, part 1. I plan on doing every single pick from 2010 until, present day. This part only had 8 picks, and that's not going to be a consistent thing. I made it only 8 picks because, I kind of want to get my feet wet into the whole thing. I kind of want this series to be like a place filler, like when there's nothing going on in sports, I could have content for you guys. So no, I don't think it's gonna be like continuous back to back episode. Which, I mean, if you guys want it enough, I can make it that way. But I just want this to be occasional, The next video after this video, I have a video essay planned. I think the concept of it is pretty solid. But for now, that's all I have for you guys. I love you. That's it for me. Peace.